I've had the most magical life. It was not what I expected. It was not at all what I dreamed about. But wow, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Old Hollywood stars once looked perfect on our screens. Now, you won't believe your eyes. One actress got fake fillers that made her face so puffy she can barely see. Another star now lives in the woods, cutting her own firewood after her husband left her for a teenager. A famous actor's face got so messed up from boxing, doctors had to use his ear to fix his nose. These stars did everything to stay young, but now they're shocking examples of what happens when fighting time goes wrong. Faye Dunaway. Faye Dunaway stunned audiences in the late 1960s. She was bold, sharp, and unforgettable. Her breakout role came in 1967 when she played Bonnie Parker in Bonnie and Clyde. Starring opposite Warren Beatty, she brought a mix of charm, danger, and seduction that earned her an Oscar nomination. 1 year later, she teamed up with Steve McQueen in The Thomas Crown Affair, adding even more star power to her name. But her most haunting role came in 1974 as Evelyn Mulray in Roman Polanski's Chinatown. The performance was delicate and mysterious, and it solidified her as one of the finest actresses of her generation. Just 2 years later, in 1976, she won the Academy Award for playing a ruthless TV executive in Network. She was on top of the world, but behind the scenes, things weren't as perfect. In May 2024, during the Cannes Film Festival, Dunaway opened up about something she had kept quiet for years. In her documentary, Faye, she revealed that she had been living with bipolar disorder. She called it both a blessing and a curse. While it helped explain some of her past actions, she made it clear it didn't excuse them. Her honesty came after decades of rumors about mood swings and outbursts. People close to her had long whispered about her being difficult. Those whispers grew louder in July 2019. Dunaway was fired from Tea at 5, a play where she portrayed Katharine Hepburn. Just minutes before a show, she allegedly slapped and threw things at the crew. Reports also claimed she forgot her lines, showed up late, and yelled at everyone, but this wasn't the first time. In 1994, she was dropped from Sunset Boulevard just before her big debut. Back then, people blamed it on her attitude. Now, her documentary gave those moments more context, but not excuses. In recent years, Dunaway's struggles weren't just emotional, they became physical. By early 2025, she had lost around 30 pounds. She talked about the pressure actresses face in Hollywood. "It's not just about your body. It messes with your mind," she said. For decades, she tried to keep up with impossible beauty standards. But in her 70s, something shifted. She stopped trying to please others and started focusing on health, not appearance. Priscilla Presley. Priscilla Presley first stepped into the spotlight in 1959. She was just 14. Elvis Presley was 24 and stationed in Germany. Their relationship sparked controversy, but it also became one of the most famous romances in music history. They married in 1967 and divorced 6 years later. But Priscilla didn't fade away. In the 80s, she joined the cast of Dallas, stayed for 5 seasons, and even won an award. Later, she made people laugh in 3 Naked Gun movies with Leslie Nielsen. But behind the red carpets and cameras, Priscilla was chasing something else: youth. In 2008, she made a shocking confession. Years earlier, she had been tricked by a fake plastic surgeon named Daniel Serrano. He wasn't even a real doctor. He injected her with an unapproved substance, one not allowed by the FDA. It was a mix of collagen and small solid beads. He was arrested in 2004. The damage, however, had already been done. After battling skin cancer, Priscilla reportedly became obsessed with fixing the scars on her nose. She asked surgeons to give her the works. According to sources, she kept going back for more. Fillers, facelifts, skin treatments. Her once soft features became stretched and stiff. One doctor who looked at her photos said her cheeks were so full of filler, it looked like she could barely open her eyes. Fans who once admired her natural beauty barely recognized her anymore. Even with the surgeries and struggles, Priscilla showed incredible strength when it mattered most. When Elvis died in 1977, his estate was in trouble. Graceland alone was costing $500,000 a year just to maintain. Lisa Marie's inheritance had dropped to only $1 million. Most people thought they'd have to sell everything, but Priscilla had a different idea. In 1982, she opened Graceland to the public. It was a risky move, but within just 4 weeks, it paid off the entire investment. She took charge of Elvis Presley Enterprises and turned it into a powerhouse. Under her leadership, the trust grew to over $100 million. She didn't just save Lisa Marie's future, she saved Elvis's legacy. Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke was once the ultimate bad boy heartthrob. In the early 80s, he stole the screen in films like Diner, Rumble Fish, and The Pope of Greenwich Village. Women adored him. Men wanted to be him. He rarely smiled in movies, not because he was trying to look tough, but because he'd lost teeth as a kid. That closed-mouth smirk became his trademark. Then, in 1991, at the peak of his fame, he walked away. He gave up Hollywood to return to boxing, a passion from his younger days. That decision would change his life and his face forever. In the ring, he suffered brutal injuries. A split tongue, a broken nose, not once but twice, shattered cheekbones, cracked ribs. Doctors warned him about brain damage, but he kept going. By 2009, Rourke admitted he'd had major reconstructive surgery. Not to look younger, but just to fix what boxing had done. "I went to the wrong guy," he told the Daily Mail. 5 nose surgeries. His smashed cheekbone needed work. Cartilage from his ear was used to rebuild his nose. In one operation, they had to scrape out scar tissue that wouldn't heal. He said it was the most painful thing he'd ever been through. But boxing wasn't the only reason for the changes. His ex-wife, Deborah Feuer, later said he got cheek implants just to land a role. It was for Wild Orchid in 1990. His face looked puffier. He blamed dental work, but fans noticed something else. Even in 2017, Rourke was still altering his face. He posted an Instagram photo after nose surgery, joking he was pretty again. By 2025, at 72, his face is a patchwork of past decisions. The charm that once lit up movie screens is buried under surgeries gone wrong. Experts say it's one of the most extreme celebrity transformations in Hollywood history. Joan Van Ark. Joan Van Ark was TV royalty in the 80s. Born in 1943, she became a household name playing Valine Ewing on Knots Landing. Before that, she appeared on Dallas. She carried the role for 13 seasons, from 1979 to 1992. At her peak, she was elegant, graceful, and radiant. Awards followed, 2 Soap Opera Digest wins, and 6 more nominations. She was one of the faces of primetime drama. She wasn't just a TV star, she had real acting chops. She got a scholarship to the Yale School of Drama when she was just 15. No college degree, no detours. She went straight to the top. In 1971, her stage role in The School for Wives earned her a Tony nomination and a Theatre World Award. But as the years passed, her face changed dramatically. Now, at 81, fans hardly recognize her. the sharp cheekbones, the soft smile. They're gone. Her transformation has sparked endless conversations online. Some call it shocking. Others call it heartbreaking. Reports suggest she's had multiple surgeries: Botox, laser treatments, facelifts, a brow lift, fillers, nose jobs, lip work, even eyelid reconstruction. Experts say the procedures went too far. One clinic even listed her in their top 10 failed celebrity plastic surgeries, saying her face lost the natural grace that once defined her. Photos tell the story. The before and after comparisons are everywhere. They show a once beautiful woman chasing an impossible standard. In January 2025, a YouTube documentary titled "The Dark Side of Celebrity Plastic Surgery." Joan Van Ark explored how Hollywood's pressure crushed her confidence. The message was clear: aging isn't allowed when you're a woman in show business. Linda Evans. Linda Evans was once the queen of 1980s television. At her peak on Dynasty, she played Crystal Carrington and earned $100,000 per episode. That role brought her 5 straight People's Choice Awards and a Golden Globe. For most of the decade, she was one of the highest-paid actresses on TV. Viewers saw a glamorous blonde star in designer gowns, but her real story took a very different turn. In 1989, when she was just 47, Linda walked away from it all. She left behind her luxurious Beverly Hills life and moved to a 70-acre property in Rainier, Washington. She had quietly bought the land while still working on Dynasty. It had cottages, a river, and enough space for family, including her sister, her nephew, and even her ex-stepdaughter, Bo Derek's stepdaughter. That's who she chose to live near, far from the cameras. Her decision to disappear came after heartbreak. Her husband, director John Derek, left her for Bo Derek, who was only 16 at the time. It shattered her, but she shocked everyone by staying friendly with Bo. That choice said a lot about Linda's character. She also changed on the outside. During her time dating musician Yanni, who was 12 years younger, she used Botox and wigs to keep up appearances, but once she left Hollywood, she chopped her own firewood, grew her own vegetables, and let go of the pressure to stay young. She even said, "I no longer had to worry about how I looked." But life in the woods wasn't always peaceful. In 2006, Linda suffered a slipped disc that caused unbearable pain. At one point, the pain was so bad, she thought about ending her life. At the same time, her sisters were facing serious illnesses. She called it one of the darkest chapters she had ever known. That crisis changed her again. Doctors couldn't give her answers, so she turned to Eastern healing and began studying alternative medicine and philosophy. She was diagnosed with idiopathic edema, a condition that causes mysterious swelling. But Linda wasn't new to wellness. Back in 1983, at the height of her fame, she had already written a book, the Linda Evans Beauty and Exercise Book. It sold over 500,000 copies. It talked about ideas like intuitive eating and meditation, long before they were trends. In 1992, she opened fitness centers just for women. In many ways, she was ahead of her time. Now at 82, Linda lives quietly with her dog, Alexi. Her days are slow and peaceful. She walks in nature, lifts light weights, practices yoga, and meditates every morning. It's hard to believe she was once the face of a show built on glamour and scandal, but she doesn't miss it. She found something more lasting. Meg Ryan. Meg Ryan's story took a different path, but it was just as dramatic. She was born in 1961 and became America's sweetheart. Her charm lit up movies like When Harry Met Sally, where her fake orgasm scene became legendary. Then came Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail, both massive hits with Tom Hanks. For years, she ruled the romantic comedy box office. But time changed everything. When she appeared at the 2025 Oscars, people barely recognized her. Experts said she had gone through major procedures: Botox, fillers, rhinoplasty, a facelift, eyelid surgery. One surgeon even mentioned a botched eyelid lift and a poorly done neck lift. Another said her face looked like a frozen mask, with comically overemphasized cheekbones. The backlash was harsh. Some blamed Hollywood's obsession with youth. Others pointed fingers at Ryan for chasing a lost image. Her face, once fresh and relatable, became a warning story about what fame can do. And all of it played out in public. Her career had already slowed down before the surgeries. She took an 8-year break and only returned in 2023 to direct What Happens Later. But people talked more about her face than her film. Her personal life also hit rough patches. She married actor Dennis Quaid in 1991. They had a son, Jack, who now stars in The Boys, but the marriage ended in 2001. Around that time, Ryan was rumored to be having an affair with Russell Crowe. Later, she admitted to Oprah that the marriage had problems long before that. "I should have left sooner," she said. She tried again with John Mellencamp, the musician. Their relationship lasted 9 years, with a short engagement in 2018. But by 2019, it was over. Through it all, Ryan focused on her children. Besides Jack, she adopted a daughter named Daisy from China in 2006. Despite the criticism, Meg tried to make peace with aging. "As an old person now, I love my age," she told Glamour. She called out society's fear of growing old. But when asked directly about her surgeries, she brushed it off. "It's not worth it," she said. "Of course it hurts, but there are more interesting things to think about." Meg is now 62. Her face has changed, but she hasn't given up. She's still trying to create, still trying to live life on her terms. Liza Minnelli. Liza Minnelli grew up in the shadow of Hollywood royalty. Her mother was Judy Garland, and from an early age, it was clear that Liza had inherited the spotlight. She didn't just become famous, she became a legend. She won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. Very few people in history have done that. In the 1970s, she was electric. Her role in Cabaret and her concert Liza with a Z made her one of the most recognizable stars in the world. With her short pixie cut, huge lashes, and sparkling Halston outfits, she didn't just perform, she dazzled. But behind all the glam, her body was already breaking down. At 54, things got much worse. In October 2000, she collapsed at her home in Florida. Paramedics thought it was a stroke. Her face drooped. She couldn't move one side of her body. She slurred her words. After 8 days in intensive care, doctors discovered it wasn't a stroke. It was viral encephalitis, a mosquito-borne brain infection that can kill. Her neurologist said it was very serious. She survived, but the damage to her body was permanent. That wasn't the only battle. She had scoliosis her whole life, though she didn't even realize it until later. That curved spine made it painful to breathe or move, especially on stage. But she adapted. Her signature movements weren't just for show, they were a way to hide the pain. Then, in 2007, she fell during a show in Sweden. She shattered her jaw and needed full reconstruction. It didn't stop there. In 2013, she broke both her wrists. In 2014, a dog jumped on her and broke her back. She once listed all the things holding her together: 2 fake hips, a wired-up knee, 3 crushed spinal discs, and scoliosis. On top of that, she fought addictions. After her mother's death in 1969, Doctors gave her Valium to cope. That started a long struggle with pills and alcohol. It changed how she looked. By the time she entered her 70s, Liza was usually seen in a wheelchair. Now, 79, she's honest about aging. "Take care of your body," she says. "You might live longer than you expect to." In 2024, she surprised everyone by appearing in public again. And in April 2025, she's set to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award on RuPaul's Drag Race. Even after everything, Liza Minnelli is still standing, just in a different way. Lara Flynn. Lara Flynn Boyle's rise was just as fast. In the early 90s, she played Donna on Twin Peaks and became a Hollywood beauty icon. With sharp cheekbones and haunting eyes, she stole scenes without saying a word. She was born in 1970, and by the time she was in her 20s, she had roles in The Practice, Wayne's World, and Men in Black 2. Her Emmy nomination proved she wasn't just pretty. She had talent, but the spotlight turned harsh. By the 2000s, the tabloids followed her everywhere. She called the paparazzi mosquitoes, swarming the moment she stepped outside. Still, she didn't complain. "I chose this," she said in 2021. "If I take the paycheck, I take the bad publicity." That publicity, ironically, helped her land a role in the 2024 film Mother Couch. The director said he wanted someone who had lived through pain. And Lara had. Now, 54, she talks openly about age in Hollywood. It's not just Hollywood's fault. We all prefer to look at pretty people. She also talked about the times she walked out of meetings where something was not called for, and how she paid the price for saying no. After years away from acting, she's not calling it a comeback. "I'm right here," she says. She's been married to real estate investor Donald Ray Thomas II since 2006, after high-profile relationships with Kyle MacLachlan, David Spade, and Jack Nicholson. Her wild days, she says, are over. Those disco boots, they've had their time. Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase was once one of the biggest comedy stars alive. He was born in 1943 and became famous in the 1970s as part of the original Saturday Night Live. Then came Caddyshack, Fletch, and National Lampoon's Vacation. But the laughs started fading long ago. In 2021, he spent 5 weeks in the hospital for near-fatal heart failure. He later said his memory isn't what it used to be. In 2023, he showed up in a wheelchair for a Christmas event in Buffalo. He fell off the stage. His team said it was nothing serious, just travel exhaustion. But fans noticed. He was 80, and clearly not the same. His health isn't the only thing that changed his legacy. His reputation took a major hit. On the show Community, he constantly clashed with the cast. Joel McHale said they had shoving matches. Once, McHale even dislocated Chase's shoulder. Co-star Donald Glover said Chase made racist comments. The show's creator, Dan Harmon, hated working with him. In one shocking moment, Harmon led a crowd to chant, "Fuck Chevy," while Chase's wife and daughter were present. Chase responded with a furious voicemail. Harmon made it public, but these issues go back further. He quit SNL in season 2, leaving behind burned bridges. His late-night talk show in the 90s was canceled after 6 episodes. He struggled with addiction for years, entering rehab in 1986 for painkillers and again in 2016 for alcohol. Victoria Principal. Victoria Principal was one of the biggest stars on TV when she played Pamela Barnes Ewing on Dallas. Millions of people watched her every week, and she had everything: fame, money, and a guaranteed spot in the spotlight. But in 1987, she shocked everyone. She walked away. No one understood it. Why would someone give up a hit show at the peak of her career? Behind the scenes, though, Victoria had a plan. She had grown obsessed with skin care. She wanted to create something of her own, something natural. And just 2 years after leaving Dallas, in 1989, she launched a skincare brand called Principal Secret. Back then, it wasn't normal for celebrities to start their own brands. But Victoria wasn't just following a trend, she was ahead of it. It started small. Then it exploded. Her skincare line turned into a billion-dollar empire. By 2013, the brand had already made $1.5 billion. By 2019, it had hit $2 billion in total sales. And this wasn't just her face on a bottle. She joined the Society of Cosmetic Chemists in 2000. She studied ingredients. She tested products. She cared deeply because she had sensitive skin herself. Then, just like that, she walked away again. In 2019, at the age of 69, she left the business. She sold it to Guthy-Renker and turned her attention to something else, her foundation. She now focused fully on the environment, working on ocean cleanup, banning toxic chemicals, and helping with disaster relief. Today, Victoria is almost 75. She doesn't show up in magazines or on TV like before, but she didn't fade away. She stepped back on her own terms. From TV queen to beauty mogul to eco-warrior, she built a billion-dollar business, then left it behind for something bigger. Suzanne Summers. Suzanne Summers was a household name by 1977. She played Chrissy Snow, the sweet, goofy blonde on Three's Company. The show was #1, and she was a star. But in 1980, she made a bold move. She asked for equal pay. Her male co-star, John Ritter, made much more than her. She only made $3,500 a week. So she stood up. And she was fired. It wasn't just a firing. ABC crushed her. They called her greedy. They blacklisted her. For years, she couldn't get work in Hollywood, but instead of giving up, she changed the game. In 1991, she launched the Thigh Master, a simple fitness gadget. Nothing fancy, but her infomercial was unforgettable. It started with her legs and her husband saying,
"Great legs."
The ad was cheeky, funny, and it worked. They sold 10 million units right away. It was a cultural moment, and it started with her showing off $500 Manolo Blahniks while wearing only her underwear. That wasn't her last reinvention. After being diagnosed with breast cancer in 2000, she made another big shift. She had surgery and radiation, but refused chemotherapy. Doctors warned her. She didn't care. She went deep into alternative medicine, promoting hormone therapy and writing books like Ageless. Her methods were extreme. She injected hormones into her vagina and took 60 pills a day. Oprah loved her. Millions listened. But many doctors didn't. They called her advice dangerous. Dr. Jen Gunter said she made fringe ideas seem mainstream overnight. Still, she never stopped. Even when critics attacked, she kept pushing her message. But in October 2023, the cancer came back. She died one day before turning 77. She had spent more than 40 years breaking rules, on TV, in business, and in health. Whether people loved her or disagreed with her, no one could ignore her. Kirsty Alli. Kirsty Alli started her rise with Star Trek II in 1982, but it was Cheers that made her a true star. She joined the cast in 1987 and stayed until 1993, playing Rebecca Howe. Her performance won her an Emmy and a Golden Globe. In her speech, she famously thanked her husband for giving me the big one for the last 8 years. Classic Kirsty. She kept working through the 80s and 90s. But soon, her name became tied to something else, her weight. At 53, she said, "Men tragedies pushed her into emotional eating. In 2004, she joined Jenny Craig and lost 75 pounds. On Oprah, she admitted she hadn't realized how heavy she was. It was honest. It hit home for many. In 2010, she got even more personal with a reality show, Kirsty Alli's Big Life. It showed her struggles as a single mom and her mission to lose weight. At the time, she weighed 228 pounds. Her handyman Jim, who weighed 324, joined her on the journey. The show ran for 12 episodes and gave fans a raw, real look at her life. But weight wasn't her biggest battle. In 2022, she went to the doctor for what she thought was a sore. It turned out to be stage 4 colon cancer. She started chemotherapy at Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa. But it wasn't enough. 7 months later, on December 5, 2022, she died at age 71. Her children said she fought with strength and never gave up. Her career lasted more than 40 years, starting in 1978 and ending in 2022. She won another Emmy in 1994 and got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1995. Fans loved her not just for her comedy, but for how open she was about her flaws. She laughed, she cried, she struggled, and she let everyone see it.